I am determined to get through my entire cart TBR and maybe one bookshelf this year. So I am going to be doing the bingo challenge again this year. I didn't film it last year, but I have quite a few books that I'm pretty excited for. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over all of the books that I have for the fantasy bingo card. And if you are not familiar with this, it is something that is on Reddit. It runs from April 1st to March 31st of the following year. You get a bingo card that looks similar to this, and it has all of the prompts on there that you can pick your books from. Now, I did this last year. I didn't film it and I didn't do very good, I'll be very honest. But this year I am more excited. It's taken me a couple weeks to really get through what books I want to do and everything else like that. So before we get into that, a few announcements. One, it is my birthday month. So if you want to head on over to my community tab and participate in the random acts of kindness that I do for the whole month of my birthday, then head on over there, put your wish list in the links, gift somebody a book, do some kindness. It doesn't have to be me, or it can be me, whatever you want to do, and you don't have to tell anyone if you are gifting them a book. Also, if you want to head to my description box, you will find the Reddit link that has all the information if you want to do the bingo card as well with me this year. Also, you can hit my ambassador link, shop anything on the Bookish Box website. I love their apparel, their shirts, their joggers, everything. I think it's very good quality. You can hit my ambassador link as well. Also, make sure that you like and subscribe and find all the other links below for my Patreon, Pango Books account, my Amazon wishlist, and so much more. So let's get into the books that I have picked for the prompts and how I am going to structure this year's bingo card. So this year I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I tried last year to just kind of pick as I went. I wanted to go ahead and get all of my books sorted out so I knew what I was going to need to read to do the bingo card. I am aiming for a blacked out bingo card. I am hoping to complete all of these books by March 31st of next year. We'll see if I can do it. I mean, if I can average 2 books a month, I think we'll get there, but we'll just see whenever March 31st comes around next year and we take accountability for this. I also know that there are different levels of hard mode where you can do the normal one, which I am going to do. You can do hard mode, which has kind of a stricter rule where, for instance, dreams, instead of it being like magical or otherwise, it has to be an actual dream, like a nightmare. That would be hard mode. If you wanted to do the highest level of hard mode, you also have to review every single book on your list on whichever platform you choose to review it on. I am just going to do the normal, but what I'm going to do is, instead of doing a prompt and having a book picked out for it, and if I get to that prompt or it's one of the last ones, or maybe I'm struggling with the book, I am not going to switch it out for another one. I'm actually going to stick to these books. Now, if I do not complete that book, if I DNF it, then of course I don't get that bingo space. I know that you can switch it out as you want and all of that, but I am going to really keep myself structured to keep to this stack because I want to whittle down my physical TBR, and this is the best way to do it. Let's get into all the prompts and the books that I have picked. I've already showed you the bingo card. I am going to be going left to right and down, so that way if you have a screenshot of the bingo card, you can see which prompt I am talking about. And let's just get into all the fun. So as I was going through curating my entire stack of books that I am going to be reading for each prompt. I actually got quite a lot off of my TBR cart, which makes me feel so good because I think after May, I'll get to fill that thing up again, clear some room on my bookshelves, and really just start feeling like I'm really dwindling my TBR down. So the first prompt that is up is called First in a Series, and I chose Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. This book is the first book in the Sacred Stones series. I do know that the second book just came out. It's called A Promise of Peridot, I think. And I'm going to be diving into this book at some point. This is not my TBR, right, for the month or for the next couple months. I get to read these throughout the year as long as I get them done by March 31st of next year. So we'll see how well I do. So first up, A Dawn of Onyx. This is a fantasy romance, and I think it deals with the Fae, and I think it has some dark tones to it. So I'm really excited to get to this one. The next prompt is an alliterative title. I can't say that. Alliterative. I hope I put it on the screen. But that means that 2 or more words in the title have to start with the same letter. So I chose When the Sky Fell on Splendor by Emily Henry. I have had this on my TBR for I don't even know how long. I've been wanting to get to it. It is like a sci-fi type book, so I can't wait. It deals with like a small town. Things are happening. Weird stuff's happening. There was like a boom or something in the distance, and now everyone wants to know what's going on. That's all that I know. I'm pretty excited. I'm not a huge sci-fi girly. You will notice that throughout all of these books, I don't really read a whole lot of sci-fi, and this is a sci-fi fantasy bingo card, so it was really hard to find kind of a mashup of different genres. But When the Sky Fell on Splendor, and you have sky and splendor, so this one will work for that prompt. The next prompt we have is Under the Surface. So this can be where it's like in the underworld, underground, underwater, basically anything that would be considered under. And I chose To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I've never read this book, so I don't know if it takes place in the water, so we're gonna see. But it deals with sirens or mermaids, I think. Yeah, sirens. And I assume it deals with the water at some point, so I put this for that prompt. I don't know much about this book. I know that a lot of people say that they really like it, so I can't wait to try this out. The next prompt is called Criminals, and this can be anything like a thief, an assassin, different things like that. And I chose Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. Now listen, I know this is a little bit of a reach, okay, but bear with me. I saw on here that basically she is trying to kill the brutal vampire. I was like, okay, that's kind of being an assassin, right? You're just not sent on a quest. So I put it in for the prompt. This is I want to say it's a prequel before you read the next duet in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, I think. Or maybe you were supposed to read this before you read the first duet. I don't know where exactly it falls, but this is the last book that I need to read for that world to be fully caught up before her new book comes out later this year. So we are going to do Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and I hope I get to this a lot sooner rather than later. All right, the next prompt is called Dreams, where you can have like a dream magical or otherwise, something like that. And I kind of stretched that a little bit. And I went more like for prophecies or like things in your head. So I went for Wicked Saints by Emily Duncan. Our main girl, she is hearing voices in her head. I'm sure there's going to be visions somewhere. So that's why I put it in for this prompt. I've had this sitting on my shelf for quite a while, and I really want to get to it because if I don't like it, then I can just unhaul the rest of the series. I really don't know much about what this is about, but I know that on the back it says monstrously romantic, gothic jewel of a story, a snow-frosted, blood-drenched fairy tale. I'm all in. That's all I needed to know. I don't even need to read the synopsis because that screams everything that I love. So the next prompt is called Entitled Animals. And of course, you can read books like Six of Crows or, The Raven King or whatever you want to read. But I said, how about Dirty Lying Dragons by Sabrina Blackberry? Dragons are an animal. I know they're mythical. You know what? This is my bingo card. I'm going with dragons. This is the second book in that Enchanted Fates series where the first book is Dirty Lying Fairies, and they are not connected. I don't know if in the world they're connected, but characters don't cross over. I can't wait to get to this one. I don't know if Sabrina Blackberry's coming out with a third book or not in this series. I really hope so because I kind of like her writing. Of course, it was a Wattpad book, which was Dirty Lying Fairies, so the writing isn't the greatest, but it was addicting. It was a great world, so I can't wait to see what she does with dragons. The next one is called Bards, where your main protagonist needs to be something of musical, theater, something that would be like a bard. And I decided to do Forged by Malice by Elizabeth Helen, which is book 3 in the Beasts of the Briar series, because one of the guys in here is musical, and he is one of the main princes. So I'm going to continue on with this series. I have been desperate because I know the 4th book, what is it called? Dropped by Daylight, Death by Daylight. It's something like that, and it is coming out later this year, so I really want to get caught up on this series. So I am going to continue. This is going to be the spring book, I believe. The first one was like all 4 of them introducing you to the world. The second one, which was Woven by Gold, was the Fall Princes book. This one is going to be the Spring Princes book, but it has all the cast of characters because this is a Why Choose book. So they're all like in a relationship together. But this is the Spring Princes book, and I know the next one is the Summer Princes book. So then the 5th and final book will be, of course, Kaldarian, who is the Winter Prince, and I can't wait to get to that one either. So I can't wait to continue this series. And then the next one is called Prologues and Epilogues, which means basically you just have to have a prologue or an epilogue in the book. So I went through every fantasy book that I had on my TBR cart. And would you believe that Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh has a prologue? I was like, good. That is, just getting 2 things that I want into one. I need to clear my TBR card, and I'm going to put this in for my bingo card. This is a duology, and I do believe that it's like 1,001 Nights retelling, I think, where basically she decides to become the wife of the king. Basically, everyone who marries the king doesn't live to see the next day, so she ends up telling him a story, but she doesn't tell him the whole story. So every day she gets to live, and that just sounds really cool to me, and I can't wait to try it out. The next prompt was so easy because 95% of my physical TBR can be in this prompt, and that is self-published or indie published book. Well, I went with one of the newest books that I just got, which was The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which, fun fact, I did not know this, but Holly Renee posted on her Instagram that Barnes & Noble will not be producing the Barnes & Noble exclusives anymore because I guess it came with a blue hardback and it was supposed to be pink. They also said that they are not going to be doing special editions or exclusives of indie authors anymore, which is kind of strange. So this is kind of unique. I know that she's going to be selling the pink cover with the pink hardback on her website at some point, but if you got the Barnes & Noble exclusive, you have one of a kind because it has a blue hardback. But I can't wait to get into this. This is the first in a series, and she is a self-published author. So I thought that this was beautiful. I had to snag it up. And I know about nothing of what this is about, and I like that. And the next prompt, again, is like 95% of my physical TBR, and that is romantasy. And so I decided to grab off my TBR cart Fighting Destiny by Amelia Hutchins. This is the first book in, I guess it's called the Fae Chronicles, I think. Anyway, this is a fabled edition, and it has a slipcover. I took it out to show you, but basically it's a romantasy. It is spicy. It has fae in it. Say no more. The next one I kind of struggled on. Okay, it's called Dark Academia. I don't really like Dark Academia very much. I think I have maybe one book on my shelf that I could have put in for Dark Academia, but it's not fantasy or sci-fi, so I couldn't do that. So again, another little stretch, but I have to do what I need to do. And that is Twilight of Embers by Tessa Hale. The reason why I put this on here for Dark Academia is because it says getting a scholarship to Evergreen University. Okay, so it takes place on a college, I think, or at least somewhat of a college. We're counting Dark Academia. I don't have any Dark Academia books, and I did not want to purchase a single book. I wanted to get rid of things on my physical TBR, so we got to do what we need to do, guys. The next one did come off of my TBR cart as well, and it is for multi-POV, and I put The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty on here. I really don't know anything about it. I think I did whenever I got the book. I don't know anything about it now. I know that it is a high fantasy or an epic fantasy. I don't even know if there's actual romance in here, but I'm pretty excited because I know this is a loved series by a lot of people. So I really want to dive in and see what it's all about. I can't wait to get to it, which is probably going to be several months from now, but nonetheless, I can't wait. The next book was actually a little hard because if you are trying to structure your TBR at the very beginning, this one would be very difficult unless you were just reading as you went, and then of course you would have more options. But it's called Published in 2024, and thankfully I did have a book on my shelf, which is called Until the Stars Fall by Vanessa Rasanen, I don't know how to say the last name. This is a fantasy romance. This is the book I think that I got in an Amazon package, and I said I didn't even remember ordering it, and I think one of my subscribers put a comment down below saying that it was absolutely amazing, so I can't wait to get to it. Again, I know nothing about it. I just know that it says the last time a Fae King took a human bride, it started a war. This time it could prevent one. So I'm excited to dive into this. The next one is The Character with a Disability. I am just clearing my shelves and finishing series, y'all. I am so excited with myself. And so I'm going to pick up Western Passage Part 2 Arrival by G. DiCarlo. This I've had forever. At least 3 years, at least, if not 4. And I read the first one probably in 2019, 2020, I think. 2021 as a stretch. And I wanted to go into this because it's a duology. I never did. But basically, this is a dystopian fantasy type book with a cast of characters that really don't like each other, and they even have a vampire with them. The reason why I picked this with a disability is because Aya, who is the vampire, it's kind of like a fantastical disability where she can't find food. She has no food. She's weakening, all of these things. So I feel like that's a disability because she's going to die. So I kind of did reach a little bit, but I really don't have anything on my shelf that would be with a disability. The one book that I do have, I've already read, and that's called The Fae King's Curse by Jamie Schlosser, where the main character is blind, and I couldn't find any other books that were fantasy with a disability rep, so I had to go with a fantastical element. And of course, there had to be one prompt that I literally am going to have to alter a little bit because I didn't want to buy any books, right? I didn't want to spend any money. I want to get my TBR down. And this one is Published in the 90s. And would you believe that the two books that I could choose from, one was published in 1989, the other one was published in 2001. That's how my luck is. So we're going with the 2001, and that is Fantasy Lover by Sherilyn Kenyon. This is about a girl who's like lived for thousands of years, I think. And that's all that I know. That's all that I know, and that's all that I care about. I've heard so many good things about this book and even the series altogether. I don't know if I'm going to continue on. It depends on how well I like this, but you can definitely tell it was a while ago. It is yellowing on the pages. I mean, it's one of those little pocket books. So we're gonna dive into Fantasy Lover. And then, of course, the next prompt. I am just going to throw it out there and hope that it applies to this book because I do not own a single book that distinctively states that it has any of these types of characters in it. So we're just going to throw an epic fantasy out there and just pray. And that is Orcs, Trolls, and Goblins. Oh my. And it needs to have orcs, goblins, trolls, one of the like in the book. So an epic fantasy, you're going to have some pretty good odds, more than likely. So we're putting The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang on here. This is the Page and Wick edition. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is huge. Okay, absolutely huge. And it's a standalone fantasy, so I'm just throwing this out there and praying that it has orcs, trolls, or what else do I have to have? Goblins. I'm just hoping. The next one is space opera. I don't even know what a space opera is. Can someone tell me in the comments below what exactly is a space opera? So I just went with a sci-fi book. I was like, this deals with other galaxies, aliens, it's sci-fi. It's a space opera. That's kind of how my mind worked. But that is The Last Luminian by S.G. Blaze. I don't know anything about this. I just know on the back it says that she is a rebel. Lilla is fighting on the side of refugees for their freedom from oppression, but there is a bigger war brewing on the horizon, the Era War, the war between two ruling arc gods that threatens not only Lilla's home world, but also everyone else's in the 7 galaxies. So I cannot wait to get to this book. The next prompt is author of color, which I had so many options to choose from on my physical TBR that it was hard. But I'm really excited. If you've noticed that there's a lot of these books that I've never even talked about that I'm putting on my TBR, because I was trying to pick things that either have been sitting for a long time on there or whatever and try and fit them in where I could. So the author of color that I chose was Tracy Deonn, and I'm going to read Legendborn. I have not read this series. I haven't even read anything by Tracy Deonn, so it's a new to me author, but this is like a loosely based King Arthur retelling, I believe. So, or at least maybe not a King Arthur retelling, but I think the descendants of King Arthur. It's something like that. And I am pretty intrigued and cannot wait. All right, so the next one is called Survival, and I did get it off of my TBR cart, which is another chunker. But thankfully, we have a full year to read all of these books, so I'm happy with that. But I went with Grave Mercy by Robin Fevers. And this one is basically where she is going to a court and she is having to deal with deadly games of intrigue, treason. She's got to survive a whole lot of politics. So I decided to put Grave Mercy on there. I don't remember when I picked this up. I don't even remember what the reason was that I picked it up. But there was one, so I'm ready to get to it and see if I like it. This next prompt was so hard for me to choose because it's to judge a book by its cover. You guys, I have so many beautiful covers on my shelves. It was so difficult, but I ended up going with City of Stardust by Georgia Summers. This is just absolutely stunning. It's breathtaking. I love everything about this cover. So I'm hoping that it's good. Again, I don't know anything about it, but curses are made to be broken. That's all I know. And it came in a fairy loot box just a couple months ago. I don't think it tells me the month, but I think it was like December or January's one. So it's kind of a fairly recent one. The next one is set in a small town. Do you know how hard it is to find a small town fantasy romance, at least on my shelves? Like, I don't read small town fantasies. Like, I like an adventure. I like political and court intrigue. I don't want a small town, but I did find one off of my TBR cart, and that is Storybound by Emily McKay. This book I've had for so long. I got it from Entangled Publishing like several years ago, and it basically is about our girl who is a librarian. She has bounced from town to town, and she's in a small town, and basically she loves to read. And all of a sudden, one of the guys from her books like comes to life. So it's like, what if your book boyfriend was real? So I'm intrigued with this story, and I can't wait to dive in. Okay, I went a little bit overboard, you guys, on this next prompt. Just a little bit overboard. So it's 5 science fiction or fantasy short stories. Now, what classifies as a short story? Like, to you, is a short story 100 pages or less? To me, I think a short story is like 250 pages or less. Like, it's a very quick read for me. So here's what I did. I first started out picking modern fairy tales, which has Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside in it. And of course, they're all like around 200 pages. They're not much at all. So I was like, well, there's 3 short stories that I am going to try to read. And then I also picked up, you guys know if you've been around for a couple months, the $17 70-page book, Cleaner of Bones by Meg Castle. I'm pretty sure I could sit down and read this on my lunch at one point. So I was like, there is 4 short stories and I only need 1 more. Well, I really didn't have just like 1 more. So what did I do? I decided to put the whole series, oh, you can't even tell. These are the Patreon exclusives. Let me try to get them in order. We have The Never King by Nikki St. Croix, which I mean, they're like 120 pages. So we have The Never King. I don't know what the next book is. So we have The Fae Princes. And then we have Their Vicious Darling. And then we also have The Dark One, which these were her Patreon exclusives that if you were in her like top tier and you stayed on it for several months, like you had to be on it for 2 months at least. And then anytime she came out with a new book, she would do it in an exclusive edition and mail it to you. So I don't think they're available anymore. I could be wrong, but I really don't think they are. So I decided to put all 4 of these just to go ahead and get that whole series done. So we have these 4 books, Cleaner of Bones, and then I think I am going to try to read Modern Fairy Tales because that'll get another book off of my shelf. So instead of reading 5, we're going to be reading 8. Only 3 more prompts. However, we have 2 chunky books coming. So the third to last prompt is Eldritch Creatures, which they need to be creatures that are like not of this world, ones that like you don't even quite know how to formulate, how to describe what they are. So we went with The Fangs of War by E.J. Doble. This is one of the page and Wick things, and it does say on here that he amasses the largest army seen in a generation and plunges the 2 nations into a bloody war against the will of the godlike being known as the All-Mother. So that sounds like an eldritch creature to me. So we're going to be doing Fangs of War. I think this is an absolutely stunning edition from Page and Wick. Can't wait to dive into a brand new world. Okay. The second to last prompt is probably going to kill me. Because I don't know why I did this to myself, but nonetheless, we're here. We're gonna do it. Okay. I'm just putting that out there. We're gonna do it. It is reference materials, which means, does it have a dictionary? Does it have a glossary? Does it have, pronunciation, some type of reference material that will help you get through the book? So we're doing it. It's The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a chunker. And the reason why I put it for reference materials is because there is a pronunciation key in the back. So whenever you're looking through here, it's like its own dictionary. What have I gotten myself into? Has anybody read Name of the Wind? I know that it's written similarly. Well, this may have been written first, so maybe the other book was written similarly like this. But nonetheless, it reads similarly to Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, where basically it is about a guy just sitting around telling his stories from the past. Is that kind of how this is? Because I don't know, but we're going to find out. All right, and the final prompt is book club or read along. Now, I don't have any read-alongs going on because Becca in the Books is doing the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. They'll be starting that up in May, and I don't like the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. We already been through it. I DNF 50% of the way through Children of Fallen Gods, so I'm not doing the read-along. So I decided to make my May pick for my Patreon members be Blood and Moonlight by Erin Beatty. I am pretty excited to get to this one. This one I got, I think, out of Abraxas book box. Yeah, it was out of Abraxas book box. And I do have the second book as well in this series. Abraxas book box is not around anymore, but I did have it whenever I was a sub to them. So I'm going to make this our May pick just so I can clear something off of my TBR cart, get something off of my physical TBR, and fulfill a prompt. All right, everyone, those are all of the books that I am hoping that I get to before March 31st of next year. Are there any books in here that you feel like I stretched a little too far on? Does the Sword of Kaigen have orcs, goblins, or trolls? I kind of need to know before I really start getting into this so I can swap it out before I get going, because I don't really want to read that big of a book and not be able to count it. Just let me know below. I know that was a huge stretch. However, I hope you all had a great time. Let me know if you are going to be participating in the bingo. Let me know if you're excited or if I've inspired you to do this. I have seen quite a few booktubers out there announcing that they will be doing it again for like the 10th year, because it's been around for 10 years. I am finally putting it out in the universe where people know that I'm doing it, because I felt like the past couple of years I haven't really been doing well on my bingo because I'm not really making myself accountable. So anyway, I hope you all had a great day. I hope you enjoyed the picks that I have, and always leave me comments below, and I will see you all next time. Bye.